We're very excited about episode 56 as we welcome Sunny with Tomo Golf Shoes. Tomo's purpose is to challenge the golf status quo, redefining the idea of the perfect golf shoe. You can find them on Instagram at Tomo Golf Shoes. Sunny, thank you so much for taking the time and hopping on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Derek.
Absolutely. Let's get right into it. It's kind of a loaded question, but what does Tomo Golf stand for, and when did you decide you wanted to start a golf company?
Tomo is actually just short for tomorrow. And it was started, the ideation was somewhere in like 2017. And that was just when I was graduating from like grad school in San Diego. And, I was looking to, like San Diego kind of like the golf mecca, especially for like golf companies. And so that's kind of like where it all started, where, I always just had a goal to like work in the golf industry ever since I got into the game in college. And so then I was like, when I was going to grad school, I'm like, okay, let's go somewhere where the golf companies are. But it just eventually I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to work for other people. I'd rather just like work for myself. And so here we are.
Did you have any background in footwear, or is that what you would like design or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think short answer is really no. I've kind of like bumped around different fields where it's kind of like I would say my professional background is kind of jack of all trades, but master of none really before this. So I've dabbled in things like sales, marketing, and then also like supply chain, manufacturing, product development. So I've like kind of like had my hands in a little bit of every pie there is.
Sure.
Which is good to kind of get a new company started because you know a little bit about everything. But then once it starts, then you're like, okay, like it's time to do a deep dive on certain of these aspects, and then you kind of just learn as you go. So
So I know the cool thing about Tomo is it's a golf company, but it's also not a golf company, right? Like you can wear
yeah,
the
yeah,
shoes
for sure.
everywhere. Um, I know that's kind of what everybody really likes about them is that you can wear them to the airport, you can wear them to the grocery store, you can wear them golfing.
Yeah.
Do you view it as a golf specific brand, or do you view it almost as just like a brand for everybody?
Yeah, I think honestly, Brass Tacks is it's a golf brand because we make golf products, but at the same time, it's a brand for everybody just because I think really the best golf brands, at least in my opinion nowadays, is just brands that kind of extend beyond golf, right? I mean, I think if you're at the airport, if someone's wearing kind of their golf polo with kind of what they would play like on their Sunday match. Like it's just a little like dweebish. And excuse me if like you're a listener and you wear that to the airport, that's like your outfit. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I think with golf being really in expansion right now, there's a lot of people playing it. That we're getting a lot newer people that didn't funnel into golf from like the traditional channels, and they're just bringing whatever their background is, whether it's their t-shirts and their style, and I just think that's really cool for golf, just because that's kind of an infusion of style and modern aesthetics that you haven't seen in a long time. And so, kind of long about way to answer your question, yeah, it's a brand for everybody. Just because I don't want to make something that you can only wear or you can only use for golf, I just think that's a little wasteful, if anything. It just you spend $200 on a pair of golf shoes and you wear like once every other week or something like that. And you're too embarrassed to wear it like to work or to somewhere else just because you're clicking everywhere. It's just so I think that's in kind of in like spirit a lot of like what we do. Like when we design and think about a product, it's like, well, like would we use it? Would we want it? Would we want to would this basically make us happy? And essentially, that goes into pretty much everything we do.
I was going to ask this question down the road, but with Dom's great question, I want to piggyback on that. Um, is it kind of surreal for you? Like you say, it kind of started in 2017, but you
Yeah.
created this golf shoe, and he brought up the airport thing. Is it more impressive that you see your own shoe, somebody wearing it at the airport or on the golf course?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think honestly, I'm just happy to see it being worn anywhere.
It's gonna be pretty
um,
wild. Like you something you
yeah,
designed, and you know what I mean. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. I think, we started the idea in 2017, but we didn't launch until like I think it was like June or July of 2018. So we've only been around for, what is that, my math, like 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
Um, yeah, and I remember once I was like traveling in Asia, and I was living there for a little bit, just doing like development season. I kind of live stateside, and I live there every once in a while, just depending on what we're developing. And while I was there, there's like a local like indoor simulator range that I went to, just to play some golf and stuff like that. And I walked in the store, and one of the guys like, "Hey, those shoes, like, are they from this brand called Tomo?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is." It's like, "Wait a second, like, do we know you?" I'm like, "No, I mean, I don't know if you do, but yeah, I started the company." And so it's just, I think the golf community used to be like really small and really like tight knit, and so everybody knows everybody else, and that's just like really cool. And I mean, obviously with it expanding, that's also super awesome. So.
That's very cool. Are you guys located in San Diego right now, as far as like the whole, like, as a company? Because I know you guys ship internationally to a couple different countries, I believe, correct?
Yeah. So we're kind of like all over the place. So we have a marketing team in San Diego that shoots a lot of our content, but we also have a content team here in Utah, where I am right now, and that's where we fulfill from. Just because typically you're in the middle, it's easier to fulfill to like East Coast, West Coast, that type of thing. So
Sure.
logistically speaking, we have a team here, but then we also have local fulfillment now in Australia and New Zealand. And then we just have team members kind of scattered across. So
Awesome. So when you kind of all over the place, but as far as like the like the design of a shoe, because I know you have multiple shoes. I apologize. I'm living downtown Minneapolis, and I don't know if you can hear the sirens, but it's
oh no, you're
pretty
good.
common.
I can't hear a thing, so
Oh, okay, okay,
yeah,
good. All right, so we're
perfect.
good. We can.
I'm sure
Yeah.
your audio is like a lot more professional than mine. I'm just using whatever my laptop comes with. So
Oh, sure.
yeah,
Well, we
so
can
you're
hear you
good.
great. I just said I don't know if you could hear us, because we can hear pretty clearly
Nah,
over
you're
here.
good.
But
We've had some guests point it out and they're like, wow, it's really loud there. And we're like,
Yeah.
sorry.
yeah,
Like,
we're working on a space. We're working on a space at some point.
Dang, now you're
Um,
like giving me a whole new bag of insecurities. What if like, oh, this guest voice is like super annoying or
oh
it's
no,
super echoey.
not at all.
no, yours is
You
fine.
sound perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally fine. But back to that question, like what does like the design process look like? Are you kind of the brains behind that and you come up with ideas, or can you kind of walk us through the steps on how that works?
Yeah, so I think so far up to this point, I think we've had 6 or 7 different lines of shoes. And right now there's 4 different new lines being developed right now. And that's not counting like some collaborations we've had with other groups and things like that. But really, I would say mostly every single one is a little bit different. I mean, I remember the very first shoe that was developed. I mean, that, understandably took the longest in development. It was, like a year and a half essentially. And that one was developed with the like I have some I would never say I'm a designer really, but I have a lot of like artistic background, and I can actually do renderings of shoes fairly well. And so that first shoe was created by me, and then we had like a professional like digital artist that did the tech pack and things like that. But some of the shoes was just like, hey, we like this particular style. Let's see how we could put like Tomo's stamp on it. And then versus some other shoes, we really just kind of go from scratch and like, what do we want from this shoe? And then let's put together the look. So it really, I think some of it, a lot of it, I would say is influenced by kind of what's currently going on in terms of just street level footwear, kind of what your sneakerheads would be into. And that's part of the goal, is to kind of bring that outside fashion into golf, which traditionally is kind of like insulated from like outside influences. And then some other, we just kind of work it out ourselves and design it from scratch. So yeah, a little bit of everything really.
So I work in the running industry. So I get to work with some really cool brands like Mizuno,
Yeah,
Brooks, Asics, a lot of those kind of fun brands.
nice.
Um, I know a lot of them base some of their designs off of certain influences. So like Mizuno, for instance, one of the shoes I really liked was a couple years ago, they had the Inspire like 18 or something. They're on
Mhm.
like 24, so whatever now. But
Yeah.
they actually took and designed the 4-foot cage off of a dragonfly wing. So
Interesting.
my question is, and when I'm getting to it, took a little bit longer than I wanted. Where do you get your kind of inspirations from? Because it seems like all these other, footwear companies are getting inspiration from all these kind of, I don't want to say weird places, because like dragonflies are pretty cool.
But just something you wouldn't think of.
Yeah, like I never
Yeah,
looked at the
yeah.
street
that's
god.
super awesome. I've never thought about it. I'm gonna have to start looking at like cool insects or whatever it is, to get
Yeah, no,
inspired.
I'm lucky enough to work with really, really great brands and really great reps who
Yeah.
do a good job explaining them. But I never would have thought of looking at shoe and gone,
No.
dragonfly wing, and just stuff like
Yeah.
that is always kind of the coolest part about footwear and designing.
Yeah, I think honestly, like running shoes, it's crazy because you would think footwear is footwear, right? But when it comes to different industries, it's so different. I think to start a footwear industry, period, your R&D budget has to be insanely huge, unless you're just trying to be like every other person or just like every other brand, right? I think like for example, Nike, it's super hard to catch up to them because nobody's budget can really like compete. And you've heard like all that marathon scandal where like, oh, we want to ban the Nike next percent because they're too fast and things like that. So I think for us, a lot of the inspiration doesn't necessarily come from like dragonflies or anything like that. It's just again, like I feel like we should, right? Because that's super awesome. But really, kind of a lot of influences from streetwear. A lot of the influences I personally want to wear what I would wear normally to the golf course. I don't want to have a separate wardrobe for the golf course. That just seems really strange to me. I think when we started or ideation happened in 2017, like Ricky Fowler was like a really big name. And that's when he would deck himself out in like the whole Sunday orange. And I think that's fun. I think that's fun to like bring so much color into the game. But I would never walk down the street in neon orange. And so I think that got him like a lot of notoriety. And now like his outfit is kind of like fitting into kind of what modern trends would be. And I think that's kind of where at least for footwear that we're interested in is just things that's easily crossover, things that would fit in your normal wardrobe should also work on the golf course essentially.
I feel like you're in like the perfect opportunity to like start a golf shoe company though, just with like how we were just talking about how like
Yeah.
you're trying to come up with something that you'd wear on and off the course. And golf right now is at an all-time high, and I feel like it's growing so much with like the streetwear collaborations. I mean, we've had like the Drake, was it not what's that brand? Or
Nocta.
Nocta. Yeah, like just different collaborations.
Yeah.
Like it's not only like so it's
I
people
mean,
that don't even play golf now are getting into golf.
we're
Like,
also seeing super duper casual golf shoes come into play, right? Like it's no longer the pointed toe or the wingtip or anything like that,
super
Yeah.
spiked golf
Yeah,
cleats.
now it's, the Jordan golf shoes. I think Cole Haan makes
They
some,
have some shoes,
and they
yeah.
look super casual.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them look quite as good as like the Tomo ones, because the Tomo have
Very
like a very, I'm not just like doing that to like toot your horn, but like there's something just like
Until
futuristic
next week,
about it.
Kohan comes on the podcast, right?
I will say no, the volume one though, that's the shoe that I have actually,
Yeah, Derek actually has a pair.
yeah, the volume ones, and they are,
Okay.
I actually, and it's you explain it perfectly. Like I wore them off the course all the time. I literally, that's a cool thing. You go to a golf course, you put your golf shoes on, you take them off. Well, these you literally could just you drive, go to the golf course, and then get back in your car and you go. So
I
they
think
super comfy.
for me, the cool thing is like Adidas tried it with their Adicross stuff and it didn't work
Right.
out. So the fact that you have built your whole company off of it and it's working and there's notoriety there, I think is very impressive, because I mean, if Adidas can't do it,
Tomo can.
there's like all of a sudden there's a hole in the
Well, I've
market.
never like I'm sure Adidas could do it if they wanted to, if they just
Yeah.
like threw a whole bunch of money at it. But you do bring up a super interesting point, just because it doesn't always work necessarily, just because I think golfers, especially like golf market, is really like finicky in a weird way. Like I remember when we first introduced the Volume 2, which is like a very like traditional style plimsoll canvas upper. They look, I would say they're compared to like traditional like low Converse or like Vans, essentially, like kind of the canvas upper with like big rubber soles. that style's, I would say, is considered classic, right? Like a lot of people do it. And when we first introduced it, it's like there's not really like a warm reception in golf, which again is weird because then like lately it started like to pick up a little bit, and we're like, oh, is this like worth another look? Which is funny, just because like I think generally in terms of footwear, golf industry is 5 to 10 years behind in terms of style. Like it really is.
Yeah.
Where something that was like really cool 5 years ago would be like really cool in golf today. Now I think that time is shrinking just because there's more people coming into golf. So it's kind of weird because it's like you want to do what you think is really cool and fashionable. And if you're like a true sneakerhead, you're like at the tip of the trend. You almost have you definitely actually have to like just dial yourself back a little bit and be like, okay, if I'm like if my market is for golf, I can't do this same thing. I have to just like tone it down or move it back a bit. So, it's a lot of trial and error. It's kind of a lot of testing, and just if you're interested in doing it, I'm sure like you could do it, but it's just like it just you have to play around with it quite a bit.
Putting a lot of pressure on you here, but what is your personal favorite Tomo golf shoe? Depends on which
Um,
day which day it is.
I mean, you gotta say the first one, right? Because it's the original, it's the baby, it's
yeah, I feel like I would be inclined to say that. Um, I think kind of like the one that's probably most special to me and always will be the volume one, just because that was the first shoe. But currently my favorite one to wear would be the Bravos. Just because I think the volume ones, I think they're a great, like, I think in terms of versatility, they're the most versatile shoe in terms of on off course. But in terms of golf shoes, we did receive a lot of feedback, and it's like, hey, we made adjustments to the volume one where we made the collar a little bit taller, so it's like a little bit more stable. We added stability strips for like lateral movement and things like that. But there's only so many tweaks you could do before you kind of just have to throw it all out and recreate it. And so, for example, when we just relaunched the Volume One Remix, that's essentially we just like threw out the old one and then we built a new shoe that is much more appropriate for golf. And so I think, like, for example, like the Bravo is just it. I think it's the perfect balance between golf. Like, I think honestly, it does everything that you need it to do for golf, unless you're like a long drive champion. Other than that, it does everything you need to do.
We're not long drive
no.
champions, so we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people think they are long drive champions. They're just
That's true.
undiscovered long drive champions. So
Everyone can
you
drive
never know.
320 yards nowadays.
God, I wish.
So the Bravo, can you tell us a little bit about the so Alpha was your most recent launch, and you launched the Alpha and the Bravo right around the same time, correct?
So we launched the Alpha, I think, last November, and then
Last
we
November,
launched the Bravo maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the Alpha was more of a, it's more of a golf focused shoe. I think if you just look at the style, of course, like it translates to everyday like sneakers like super well. But the thing is, it's like a waterproof knit, so it provides more like golf purpose performance. So the waterproof knit is great, but it also makes your fabric a little less flexible in the areas you want it to be flexible. Versus, I think the Bravo is a water resistant shoe, so it's not gonna block out all water. But most of us don't go out and play in heavy rain. And that shoe keeps a lot of the breathability and a lot of the comfort because that upper knit is just a little bit different. And so I think that's why right now, in terms of just wearing them, like that's probably my favorite shoe to wear at the moment.
What can you kind of explain a little bit of, so like on your website you talk about like all day comfort, high performance, mindful materials, because you guys are very like a environmentally conscious
Yeah.
Company with your materials, and even like your the boxes are 100% recyclable. What is the Flex Tech in every shoe, and what is that? Does that kind of transpire into being a shoe where you can wear it on and off the course with the Flex
Yeah.
technology?
Yeah, so Flex Tech is actually a patented material, which is, traditional shoe sole. I mean, this is like a little bit more technical, but traditional shoe soles are made of either rubber, which is heavy but super durable, or EVA, which is super lightweight. But quality wise it's questionable. So we use polyurethane, which is kind of it's a little bit heavier than EVA, but it's a lot lighter than rubber, and it has like a really good bounce. So what that translates to is cushion and things like that. And also that material breaks down naturally. So it it's a little weird because basically what breaks down a lot of times material is moisture kind of going in. So if you leave that shoe unworn for like 3 or 5 years, it'll just break down on its own because just from natural degradation, right? But if you're constantly using it, basically keeping that material alive, essentially, then that material keeps its balance, keeps its give, and things like that. And so for us, that's definitely important just because we want to do everything right. We want to do everything kind of the best way that we can, that we know how. And so yeah, like you said, like all our boxes, packaging is recyclable. And same thing with the material that we choose that goes into our shoes.
Do you have like a time frame on how long, like for example, you released the Bravos not too long ago, but do you have like a time frame of when the next shoe you're planning on releasing? So you said you had like 3 or 4 or 5. I don't know if you can bring that up right now, but is there like an
Yeah,
idea of like how long it should take you to come up with that shoe and fully like put it in production?
yeah. I mean, I for sure can talk about it. It's just funny because like ideally, the Alpha would have released probably last year around March, and the Bravo probably would have released March this year. And so it's just a funny thing because with especially with COVID, like everybody's supply chain is still messed up. I
Yeah.
think there's still like lockdowns happening. I don't think that it's happening anymore, but like up to a month ago, there were like cities that it's like you can't go out of your house, which is really just quite ridiculous to even think about in like 2022. That's still happening.
Yeah.
Um, and I think just even if COVID didn't happen, the thing with manufacturing is you could always set a hard date on when you want to do stuff. But if the thing isn't perfect, whatever you're trying to develop, then you gotta move it. You gotta, or you could try to push it and just know you're pushing out a subpar product.
Sure.
So I feel like these things are always moving. I mean, ideally, we have a couple models that's even more, I think, comfortable, even more versatile for everyday wear that we're aiming for like next spring. And then we have like a super heavy duty, like this is for golf, 100% shoe coming out next summer. But again, the aesthetic is what streetwear would be. So I mean, those are kind of the goal, but those things are basically always changing. I mean, there's just really nothing is for certain when it comes to product development. Like anything could happen. You could be 90% of the way done and you're like, this isn't gonna work. Like throw it out. Let's start from scratch. And that's just part of the game.
Yeah, one of the biggest brands in running that I have to work with, they're like, hey, new shoe will come out in like December, January-ish, whatever. I got them last week. Like nobody
Yeah.
knows anything anymore. And it's like the most frustrating thing to like explain to people because I have no idea. The brands don't really know either. Like it's just kind of, when we're ready, we'll put them out.
Yeah, like this shoe originally was developed to be like a waterproof knit option. And it was,
Mhm.
I would say probably, I don't know, like 50, 60% done. But then we got to a point where like, we just didn't like how it turned out. And so we're scratching it.
I like
So
Yeah.
that
that one. That
happened
one's
like,
nice.
Well, yeah. So
yeah.
like, what would be like, how many people decides on that? Like at the end of the day, like ultimately, like, is it like a big group of people that like do like
I
a
kind of,
yes and no
I'm
kind of
trying
a
to
thing?
picture like a boardroom where you
Yeah.
just go, yeah, like yay or nay.
Yeah. Just raise your hand if it's gonna go in production or not.
This is why we're not a company.
Yeah. That's why we're
Yeah.
asking these questions.
I mean, not really. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to, I mean, if there's major flaw, then it's like, okay, we're obviously not doing it. Like everybody's
Sure.
on board. Um, and that's usually kind of like, catastrophic, like scraps, right? Like that's like, we're throwing that out. But otherwise, it's minor things we usually can fix and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I think usually it comes down to me
Sure. Did COVID really
essentially like, oh, we want to go ahead with it.
Sorry, our computer cut out, so I didn't get your full answer. So I apologize. I was trying to talk because I thought you were waiting for me to say something.
No, you're good.
But I was trying to think of where I was going with that question.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going.
I know I'm trying to figure out where I was going with that.
That's
Oh yeah, no, I was going to ask you. I'm sorry. Did COVID? I mean, because I feel like there's so many more golfers now since COVID, but was that a real issue for you guys? Because I know with productions and backups and things like that, did you guys have a lot of stock inventory where it wasn't a big issue for you guys as far as like when, so I know people were having big issues with getting certain materials and products.
I think we just kind of got a little bit lucky because everybody didn't know what was going on, and we just happened to have like a big shipment of inventory come in right before everything like closed. And I think that probably carried us through 2010 because again, that helped a ton just because a lot of people, there's now a lot of more customers because there are more golfers. And then 2011 was more like, like basically
We're talking
what,
2020, 2021,
yeah, 20, what did I say?
You said
2010 and
2010 and then
2011.
2011.
I'm like, well, we're going way back in time.
Yeah, no, I mean, here's the thing, like
I
the
figured I
whole
knew what you meant.
timeline, right? Is like
Yeah.
it's mushed into one file. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I feel like I just started this in like my study room like 2 weeks ago. So no, that was like 2020. Yeah, 2020 we got like a big shipment right before everything closed. And 2021 is like, okay, like I think we could get replenished on a lot of stocks. Or the stock that we have, but we just really can't push the development timeline. So that's why everything got pushed back. And so that kind of just has a snowball effect that when one product gets pushed back, it pushes like everything else back too. And so that's just, but I mean, honestly, I don't think it was too bad. I just think we could have done a lot more. I think it was more like missed opportunities rather than, oh, like it would have made us shut down. Like, no, it just, I think we could have done a lot more and grew a lot more as a brand.
Are you guys in any pro shops, or do you guys plan on being any like golf stores or anything like that? Or are you just streamlined right through Tomo Golf Shoes on the website?
Yeah, so I mean, our main focus is really just using our own platform. We are in some pro shops, but again, we don't actually actively pursue any pro shops. We don't have salespeople going out there hitting stores. Rather, if we're in a pro shop, it's because the pro shop reached out to us and like, hey, we love Tomo, we want to carry them in our store. We're like, awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
and the reason for that is it's not like we want one day. I think one day the goal is to, I don't know necessarily if we want to be something in like Dick's Sporting Goods or something like that. Like, sure, like if that happened, maybe. But we for sure at some point would want to be in pro shop just to give golfers more access to the shoes for sure. But again, for us, it's just like we like to have that touch point between us and the customers, and that helps us control our brand and control our voice a little bit better. And so that's what we've been focusing on right now. I think we want to focus on making a great product before we focus on, okay, let's distribute these everywhere, before we kind of feel comfortable to do that.
Did you want to ask this? I think you were going to ask that question before the
Oh, yeah, we kind of talked oh God. We kind of talked about it earlier before we got on. So like, do you sponsor anybody? Like, is it like professionals? Do you have any like amateurs that wear your stuff? Because like we had like Chasing Aces on and they sponsored Gigi Stoll,
Mhm.
just kind of like,
she's trying to make it to the LPGA
yeah,
tour. So
like
just wondering if you do any of that kind of
yeah,
sponsorships or programs.
Um, the
podcasts.
short answer is no, in terms of like professional players.
Sure.
Uh, and that might just be a personal thing about me, is just I never really understood in terms of golf. Like I understand like basketball in the sense of like, if you're a kid and you look at LeBron James and you're like, okay, like he's the best basketball player is. I want to be him. I'm gonna wear everything he's wearing. I don't necessarily know if that mentality translates so well into golf. I mean, I think most golfers, demographic wise, we're older people, right? We're not. What is Dustin Johnson wearing? I want to wear the same. Like I don't know, and really I don't care. I just want to wear what I want to wear and what I think is comfortable. And so and again, our focus isn't on well, this is the best golf shoe ever. This is the best shoe, period. Like this is the best shoe for me to wear every day. I feel most comfortable because it feels comfortable and it fits what like I'm wearing, right? Like it makes me comfortable go outside in this apparel, the shoe. And so it's just I don't think really the tour or professional player is a big focus for us. Rather, I think as much as people love to hate on the word influencers, I think a lot of them are regular people like you and I who loves golf. And for us, those people are way more interesting for us to sponsor than someone who is going through Q school. And I think again, I think it's just the mentality that is just we're not saying this is just a golf shoe. This is not just like the focus. Um, and I think if anybody wore it to a tournament, they find the shoe perform just fine. They would find the shoe works great, just like any other spikeless shoe would. But again, I'm just not that interested in the shoe being portrayed in that particular setting, rather than I think golf should be fun. And if we're having fun with our friends, we're just going out for a Saturday round. That's what I'm comfortable wearing. I much rather sponsor that guy. Except, that guy probably should have some reach before I sponsor him.
Yeah.
So that's the only difference right there.
I like that
I don't
answer
want
because
all your listeners coming in like, hey, I play around Saturday with my friends. Give me some shoes. And believe me,
Could get
that's kinda,
flooded with
a lot of
DMs.
that way on like Instagram. And sometimes you just like won't believe what people like are saying out on like Instagram, right? I swear I had this kid. It's like, yo, comp me a pair of shoes. Like literal entire message, yo, comp me a pair of shoes. And I messaged him, like, does this ever work for you? And he's like, not yet, question mark. And I'm like, no, it's not gonna work today. Sorry.
no, I like that answer because I mean, I've on my phone, I've had your website up for this whole time just so I can kind of follow along and kind of, with what you're saying about the shoes. It helps me kind of view them, I guess. The more I look at them, the more I kind of think of like, the average Joe plays Saturdays, wants a comfortable shoe to wear to the course, play it around in, and then, maybe have 2, 3, 4 at the 19th hole. Like they just scream casual to me, but still have all the performance.
Yeah, you can wear them out, wear them out to a restaurant or wherever.
Yeah,
You
and
don't.
I've never owned them. I am fan of just like comfortable multi-purpose shoes though. I think that is such a niche item in the market that for some reason nobody wants to like hop in and fill. But yeah, the more we've had kind of leading up to this, kind of the more I've researched and the more I just become more and more of a fan.
Thanks.
I'm into them. I like them. I think they look very
They
cool.
look nice. Okay, get on to a couple other questions here. So then, first one here is, how did you get into the game of golf?
I think actually first like ever touched a golf club was probably in high school. Maybe like junior or senior year, and absolutely hated it. I was like, this isn't a sport. This is just like a bunch of old people like wiggling their butts around. It's not a real thing. And I absolutely hated it, probably because I was like really bad at it, So
Yeah,
um,
I can relate.
I don't even remember what happened. I think in college, my goal was every semester I would take one class just for fun. So I took like a scuba course. I took like a snowboarding class. I would just take one class for fun every semester. And then just one semester, I was like, okay, I'll take golf. And for some reason, the second time it clicked, and I was like, oh, because I took it with a friend of mine, and I think that just makes a big difference. Just because when you first started golfing, it's good to like have a friend who is also starting, right? I think if I started playing with someone who's like played for years, I'd be like F you, like I'm out, like I'm not playing
Not
this.
fun.
Yeah, so I think it was fun. It was just like, you could share in the sharing the struggle. And yeah, I guess the second time it just clicked. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. So yeah.
That's interesting. I like that. I kind of picked it up too, like towards the end of high school was the same thing. I was pretty crappy too, but my buddies also played it, so it just made it that much more fun. And then we got super addicted to it after that. But
And now Derek's not crappy anymore.
I'm not that good, but I'm not bad. So, okay.
Wait,
So a
what are
couple
you guys'
questions.
handicaps? I'm just curious.
Mine was a 9.6. Mine's a 10.1 right now. I haven't played too much recently, so I can fire some good rounds, but I can also, shoot
Yeah,
90.
The
Shoot.
best
Nice.
part about playing with Derek is when he hits his bad shot, he goes, "Oh, Derek, no," and I'm like, I wish I could go there. Like his bad shots are like my like 1 in a million shots.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
he's trying to, yeah, build up my confidence a little
No,
bit.
it's true. There have been certain shots you've hit, and you're like, "Oh, that's so bad," and then I'm like, way worse.
How about you? What's
Yeah.
your handicap, Sonny?
Derek's like cussing out his own shot, and he's like 2 feet from the cup. It's like, son of a
Yeah,
bitch.
No, I got it.
he'll get mad, and it's still straight down the fairway, and I'm like, dude, I'm way off into the woods. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I bet honestly my handicap would fluctuate anywhere between, I don't know, like 20 to like 15. But I don't keep score. I hardly ever track. When I play, I really just think about how many pars and how many birdies I made. Because I think when I keep score, I get like really like, I don't know, it just messes my game up.
Play
Like
a
I
little
can't,
worse when because no,
yeah.
absolutely.
And I
I
think the
agree.
last time I actually had an official handicap must have been like 4 or 5, maybe even longer, like 4 or 5 years ago.
Years ago.
Just because I can't do it. Like I think it's great when you can like say, oh, I had a bogey and a double bogey and I'm fine. But it's like, no, I don't want to remember that. Like I
Yeah,
want that
I
out of
only
my
want to
head.
remember the good ones.
Yeah,
yeah,
pretty much.
I didn't start keeping track of mine until we started doing these because people kept asking, and I kept going, I don't know. Like, I hate to break it to
Yeah.
everybody, but I don't know. Started keeping track. I'm at like 21. Just
Yeah.
my issue is, and I explained this. I was talking to Golf Arrows earlier. I just goof around. I'm like, oh, I can hit this flop shot from
Yeah,
400
right,
yards
right,
out.
right.
Like,
Yeah, Dom is the most like he's fun to golf with because he doesn't take it seriously, which I think too many people do. Like you said, you get kind of worked up, and um there's that book that I've talked about before, and now I'm drawing a blank on it.
must have been a good book.
No, it's a good golf book, but it's basically like as a golfer, you get a scorecard and it's like a par 72. Well, most people are never going to shoot that par 72. So you're already realistically,
Yeah,
if
you
it's a
said
par
you're all
five.
sub up to bail. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like realistically, Dom, if he gets a 6 on a par 5 starting, it's probably a birdie, like going
Yeah.
by handicap.
I'm
So
pumped if I bogey a 5 to start. Yeah,
yeah,
pretty pumped.
exactly.
Yeah.
So there it is kind of setting you up, already kind of for failure. But another question for you. If you hit a hole in one on a simulator, do you count it?
No,
No,
I'm asking.
so
definitely not.
sorry.
No, I mean on the same. No, definitely not. And
Okay.
I've hit
No,
one
it's
on a golf simulator from like 150, but I'm not telling anybody about that. And I've never had a hole in one, so and I'm not going to claim that.
Okay.
no, it's like if you hit a hole in one playing PGA 2K, do you count that?
Yeah, I have a tally on my phone. I can tell you guys how many I have. I'm just kidding.
I straight up I even open your phone and go to like your
No, I
little.
haven't played PGA in forever.
I wouldn't have been surprised.
All right, Sonny, if you could take 2 golf clubs to your local 18-hole golf course and play the full round with 2 clubs, what would the 2 clubs be? And realistically, what do you think you'd shoot? I know you don't really keep track. You can just say how many pars and birdies you think you would have.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could probably tell you what I shoot. I'd probably shoot like, I don't know, like 90, 100, probably 100, probably 100, 110 maybe. But I think I probably would bring maybe like a 5 iron and a 9 iron.
Okay.
Mm.
All right, this is a question that we've asked several guests on, and we've had plenty of people have been waiting to ask this question. But if you attend a professional golf tournament, are you wearing, so like if you're going to a PGA event or whatever event it might be, and you're just going as a spectator, are you wearing golf shoes or just casual regular shoes? Or
Heck yeah,
better
I wear
yet,
my own shoes.
I was gonna say, or better yet, Tomo shoes. Which
He-
pair would you wear? Which
he-
Tomo pair?
He physically modified this question on his laptop, and I watched him type it.
Well, because I already know the answer, but so many people are like, nope, I'm not wearing golf shoes. I'm like, well, I have already said this. I told you I DM'd you a
Yeah,
while.
yeah.
I
No,
said,
I
if
think
you,
it'd be super dorky if you wore like a pair of golf shoes to like a golf expo, especially if it's indoors. And I think maybe it's like a gray area to like a PGA Tour event where you're still on some hills and some grass. But you know, if you're wearing like those like clunky leather with like real like hardcore like
Spikes.
spikes, then yeah, I think you're like a little bit too much. Like you're walking on grass. It's the same thing as going to a park. You could wear flip flops, you know, like so generally speaking, I mean, I don't even know necessarily if I would wear Tomos because I think one of the reasons I actually did Tomo is just like I love flip flops. Like that, I wear flip flops everywhere. And so like a big goal is like I want to wear shoes like they're not there. So I mean, honestly, any chance I get, if the weather's good, if it's warm, you'll find me in flip flops.
Flip flops. Is there going to be a pair of Tomo flip flops down the road?
I mean,
I don't know.
recovery
Well,
slides right now are like the thing.
yeah. I mean, you've seen like a lot of other golf companies do slides. I think I can't remember who does one, but they did one where like the footbed is like grass. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
just
talking?
Reef,
reef.
reef.
Yeah, and I think they have a
Reef.
bottle
Yeah,
to put on
yeah.
the bottom
And
side
I was
too.
like, why did I not think of that first? Now I
I
can't do
know.
it. You know, they've done it. So I was like,
I mean,
but yeah,
Hoka has like the best slides out of everybody. It's Hoka.
You know that? That's
Oh,
good.
you can't buy them anywhere because they're sold out constantly.
Okay, we have one last question, and then we do some rapid fire questions, and then kind of wrap things up here. So, but if there's one thing that you could change about the game of golf, and it could be a simple rule, like just if you're golfing with you and your buddies, it doesn't have to be a PGA Tour rule or anything like that. But if there's like one thing that you could change about golf, what would it be? Like
dress
for
code.
me, I'll just to give you an example, like a lot of people would use what they call like a breakfast ball or a lunch ball. So like everyone gets like one ball, but you know, if they shank it in the woods, they'll re-tee. So like that would be something that
Was
you
that
could
like
use as
one
an
per
answer.
round or one per hole?
No. It would normally
I
be
like that question. I
normally
like
it would
that.
be so there's normally be one per 9 holes. Some people that's why they'll call it like a breakfast ball, and then they'll
Yeah.
have
No,
like
we
a
take
lunch ball.
breakfast balls like a lot of times, like when I play with my family.
Yeah.
And it's just the first ball of the day. Like you're like literally tee
That's it.
box one. Like you get a re-tee until you get like a good shot essentially. But that's
Sure.
done like after the first hole, you know.
Yep.
But
So would that be your answer, do you think, or do you have something that you think that you might want to change? Like I know slow play is a really popular one.
yeah. I mean, if I'm like playing by myself in 9 holes, I usually do it in like less than an hour. And so slow play is a huge one. But honestly, I'd probably say culture. And that's like a super open-ended. And I just mean kind of that like hotty toddy like country club culture, like elitist culture. But that's tied into so many things. That's tied into like a dress code. That's tied into membership. That's tied into like, you know, I just learned this like not too long ago, but in Europe, you could pay like a year-long membership for like 200 quid or something like that. And you play year round at multiple courses. I'm like, where
Yeah.
is that for the United States?
Yeah, you don't really get
So
that.
yeah, so I'd probably change something like that.
Okay. All right. Some rapid fire questions. Um, Go ahead, Dom. I'm
Sorry, it
gonna let
hasn't
you
been
answer
like
the
super
question.
rapid because I'm just like going on.
No, that's okay. This is how they always work. I know it's kind of a stupid term, rapid fire questions, because they don't end up being that way. It's totally fine.
No, and especially because we'll have a couple of them where it's like you're gonna have to think.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is like the hardest part. It's just like, what's your favorite food? It's like, who knows? Mine changes every episode, apparently.
It's true.
So you rocking pants or shorts on the course?
Shorts.
Like San Diego, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Utah, actually.
That's true too.
But
Never been there.
Well, I try
Pat,
to wear like flip flops. I try to wear shorts every chance I get too. So that's kind of like my wardrobe. If you kind of get that
Sure.
ensemble.
Yeah, it snowed the other day, so
it is.
we're
Yeah,
not wearing.
we're here in
flip-flops.
Minneapolis, and it didn't stick for too long. But I mean, it was wild waking up in the morning and seeing the snow. It was, at this
Yeah,
early.
it's a little early for that, I think, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
I
anytime
mean,
before November, it's too early.
91, we had a blizzard on Halloween.
Yeah.
I wasn't around yet, but I've heard stories.
Hat, bucket hat, or no hat on the course?
Honestly, I like really all of them. So if I had to choose one, then probably no hat.
You got some nice flow cooking, nice hair. So yeah, I'd probably go no hat.
Yeah, I'm never gonna like I was born with a full head of hair. And so that's just what I'm working with. So
Yeah.
What driver's in your bag?
right now it's like the Callaway Epic whatever it is. It's like one
The
2 years, 2 or 3
Flash.
years ago.
Yeah.
It's that.
Is
It's the
it
Green
the
Bay
Flash?
Yeah.
Packers one. That's all I remember. It's like the green and yellow one. Yeah.
It's the Epic Flash.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's that one.
okay, so what is your favorite golf shoe right now that you wear? And then this might be kind of a weird question, but what is your favorite golf shoe that you wish you had? Like maybe like a collector Jordan style, something like that.
Honestly, I feel like I kind of given this away by just saying like I like the Bravos right now the most, and that's probably the shoe I would wear the most right now. But honestly, if I could, I really would like to get my hands on like one of those like old school traditional nail golf shoes,
Mm,
just for history, just to
That's
see
pretty
it.
cool. That's a good
And so
answer.
yeah, that's probably like a collector's item I probably want to have.
I want to know how heavy they are.
Yeah, I bet they're bricks.
Pretty heavy.
They're 4 pounds each. Jeez. Do you prefer early morning golf or twilight golf?
Probably Twilight.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
That's the right answer.
I like the early morning, but I
mean,
like
I
Twilight too.
Well, it's just who really likes to get up like really early and then it's always cold, right? You're like hungry, you're cold, you're sleepy.
You're literally taking the words out of Dom's mouth. That's
My
exactly
man.
what he said
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah, Dirk made me wake up early, and I'm like, dude,
He was so crabby.
like, this sucks. And it was rainy.
It was cold though.
It was cold, and I'm like,
Man.
when we ended, it was when I wanted to start. It was 74 and sunny, and I was like,
Yep.
wow, it's almost like I was right.
You were right that day.
I was.
What's your
Nice,
favorite golf club in your bag right now currently?
A putter.
Your putter? Are you pretty good at rolling the rock? Putter is like my weakest.
Actually, I feel that changes all the time, and the only reason I said putter is because I've been rolling it well lately.
Sure.
And I don't have like a really good putter. It's just like an Aataze like Versa 2 or something like that. It's just a blade with like one of those. It's supposed to be like those white insert, like the white hot insert, but it's black.
Yep.
And it's in any sense of the word, it's not a special putter. It's like a very normal. I think it was priced probably very modest. It's not a high end putter. But putter is like one of those things where I feel like they're all about the same, really.
Just depends on the person using the putter, almost.
Yeah.
That's why I've never been like big on like the Scotty Cameron putters. Everyone's like, oh, I need this putter, and it's like $700, and you're like, congrats, I beat you with my $100 ping putter or whatever.
Yeah.
They're all the same.
See, I'll buy an expensive putter if I think it looks really cool, but not because of any performance they claim to have. I know like Ping's like new, like I think like their 3D printed putter. Oh, actually no, that's Cobra that does the 3D
Cobra
print.
does that.
But then the new Ping and like answer line and stuff like that, they look super awesome, and I would just buy one to look at it and maybe use, but I don't think it would really make me a better or worse golfer essentially.
That's what I have. I have the Karsten Answer 2, and I have like the shiny copper one, and it's sick. Like it looks really good, but it feels really good too. But yeah, I don't think I'm any worse or any better with it.
Yeah, I think most of like a lot of like the Scotty Cameron and those other like they're more of collectors more than anything, but yeah, I don't think it's really going to improve.
Well, I mean, I stand corrected. You're right, Dom, in the sense of feel. Like some putters do feel like a lot better. But then again, it's about rolling the ball into the hole. And I don't know if I could do that with one putter better than the other. I mean, I can't use blade. I can't use mallet putters, but I can use blade. That's the only difference really for me. And pretty much that's, yeah.
I've always said the best putter is the one you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, if they're too heavy, I can't do it. That's why I can only use blades as well. Like if it's too big, it's too heavy, it screws up everything for me. But yeah, if I'm comfortable with it, I'm gonna roll it and it's gonna go.
This is what Dom meant when we were talking about rapid fire questions. So they start off kind of rapid and then they end up slowing down a little bit, which is good. I like these answers though. This is kind of why we do it.
Well, these are good questions, right? That's why the answers are like, oh, like it makes you think, and it's like, yeah, good question.
Yeah, I feel like feel like if it's like a yes or no question, it's just like
Yeah, that's a different. Yeah, it's like we say rapid fire because we're gonna ask a bunch of questions, but really we'd like to kind of get your a different answer than yes and no. So, um, who is your favorite golfer?
Yeah, this is a tough one just because I
It
mean
could
for
be anybody.
me, what's that?
It could be anybody. It doesn't even have to be professional golf. It could be somebody that
yeah.
somebody
Your
inspired you.
favorite golfer could
Yeah,
be Derek. Like
could be me. Yeah.
All right, Derek. There you go. I'd actually, man, I honestly don't feel like maybe this is like super narcissistic of me, I suppose. I don't really think I have like a golf idol or anything like that, within golf world or not. So maybe my favorite golfer is just my dad because we play golf.
There you
So
go. Good
there you go.
answer.
Yeah, you got some really good answers. I like that. You're very like I don't want to say down to earth, but I'd say like you're very
Humble.
yeah, very humble about it, which I like that. Good. Yeah. You've had some
Yes.
great answers.
Humility is my number one trait. So there you go. I'm the best at being humble.
Go ahead, Dom.
Which one are we at?
We're right here.
Oh wow, we went a long way.
We're getting down there.
Okay. So what's the favorite course you've played?
That's a tough one. I feel like there's like a right answer because like everybody's always like, oh, like it must be like this super scenic or like beachfront course. And I've played some of those. I think one of the most maybe scenic course I've ever played is a golf course called Clearwater Bay. It's in
Okay.
Hong Kong. And every single, like the whole course is like on the top of a mountain, but surrounded by the ocean, right? So every single hole you get an ocean view. It's not
It's
like
called Clearwater Bay.
Clearwater Bay. Yeah. So
I'm
like,
looking it
Googling
up right
you
now.
should go, you should look it
Yeah.
up. It's very hard. I mean, you can't really play it unless you like, and I happen to know someone who knew someone that could like invite me on to play. And it was just like every hole you get like an
Holy
ocean view, like every hole.
smokes.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
sick looking.
Yeah.
Is it
Um,
technically public? I know you said you had kind of know some. Is it
It's
pretty-
private.
It
Yeah.
is private. Is it okay?
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
And it's super private because I think the wait list to get on to be a member is like 10 to 15 years or something more than
Sure.
that. I mean, it's not as exclusive as like Augusta, but in terms of like
Right.
exclusivity, it's pretty hard
exclusive.
to get in.
I mean, this
Um,
might be nicer than Augusta's.
yeah.
That is
And
awesome.
Well, I
yes,
mean,
I
at
said
least-
that out loud.
Yeah, now you're gonna friggin'
that.
get killed by the golf community. It's like, how dare.
That's okay. That's okay. I'll
That is
fight.
that is very cool. How'd you
But
play it?
honestly, I
With golf
I
clubs.
played probably really bad, really bad.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, I had a good time playing really bad. So I think that's the important thing. Like I had a good time playing really bad. But yeah, I remember there was like, because this is in Asia, it's in Hong Kong. It's super hot, humid. And I remember there was this one hole where you're teeing off like an elevated tee box, and you can't really see what's coming down. And so I think I hit like a good 3-wood off the tee box or something like that. And then, so I was pumped. And I was playing with my friend Derek, who drove down the cart. So I hit a good drive. So I was pumped. So I was like running down. And as I was running down a hill, I'm not a snake expert, but it is a huge, I think, black mamba.
Oh,
And
no.
it is
I
huge,
remember
like-
that. I'm just kidding because he says Derek.
No, not this Derek, another Derek.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
But I swear, like the body is like this thick around. It's like
Oh.
it's a real snake. And I swear I jumped like 12 feet in the air to like leap over that thing. And so that was like probably the craziest thing I think that happened on the golf course for me. Like I almost just ran straight into like a poisonous snake. But actually, I think my favorite course might just be it's now closed, but there used to be this local course called Cascade. And it's not a great course. It is an 18 hole, but it's like some hole, like one hole is like 70 yards. So it's like not a great hole, but it's just like your local muni course.
Yep.
And that's where really I think I learned how to play golf. I played a lot there, and I think that place would probably just be more special to me than like Torrey
Yeah.
Pines, which I
Did
love
you play
too.
Torrey
but-
Pines? I was gonna ask you because when you were out in San Diego, did you play that
Yeah,
built like the
so I
South
have
End of one?
a San Diego City member card. So I play Torrey Pines. I only try to play Torrey Pines during twilight. I don't ever play during the day. Just because the course is like pretty empty. And if you're playing the South course, I think really the front nine is what you want to play anyway. That's the front nines are the ones by the ocean. And then if you're playing the North course, like, I think the back nine are the ones by the ocean. That's the one you want. So, and it cost me like $50 or $30 depending on whether I'm playing South or North, and that's just hard to beat.
I was gonna ask that because I seen someone post a picture of like if you have like the San Diego or like
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
card, it's like $48 for that, and then for a non resident, it's like $140 or something. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a big difference for sure.
big
They
time.
should do that here.
I think some courses, I don't know if they do here in Minnesota, but they do that to some of those. Like I know some of those like big name out of state courses, they'll do that where they give you a big
Yeah,
discount if you're
yeah,
a
yeah,
citizen of that.
for sure, for
Um,
sure.
I know you don't have a favorite golfer, so to speak, but do you have like a bucket list course that maybe you wish you know that you
What
would
would
like
that
to
have to
play?
do with having a favorite golf
Well, no,
course?
it's just because like you've been pretty humble about like not having certain favorites of
Oh,
things like
I
that.
see.
So I'm
Okay.
just saying, like, I know maybe you don't really care to play a certain golf course, but if you did, which course would it be? Could be any course.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard for me too, I guess. I guess maybe I'm just not a person for like tradition or anything, because I feel like everybody's answer would be Augusta, like right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
And I think Augusta is pretty, but I think there are other courses just as pretty in different ways. But then everybody feels Augusta is different because of like its history, and I feel like there's almost a certain like reverence to it. Um, but for me, I probably would want to just play like the most unique course. I think there's this one in, is it South Africa, where you take a helicopter ride on the 19th hole?
That's
Do you remember
that's wild.
that?
That sounds. I've. I
I'm
don't
not
remember
sure.
where it is, but I've seen it.
So there's this golf course in, I think, South Africa, where you're on the 19th hole and you hit, it's like a 700 something yard par three, and
Is
you
that the
hit
one
it
where
and
you're
then
Oh,
you
like?
yeah, the
take the
big cliff.
helicopter to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
down.
Is
Yeah,
that how
yeah.
you do? I didn't
So
know that's how you got down. That's crazy.
Well, you're not gonna
yeah.
walk down.
Love it. Get my
Yeah.
exercise in.
That'd be
With your
one
golf.
heck of a hike back up. So yeah, with all the African animal predators around, that would be one heck, like 50%
Yeah,
of the customers make it back up. So,
exactly.
but
Derek will
something
run like
like
a
that, I
gazelle.
probably would be way more interested, because I think for me, that would be just a really neat experience. And I think that's ultimately what I look for if I'm trying to find like an adventurous like golf course to play at.
Sure. Well, Sonny, it's been a pleasure. We really appreciate. We have one last question that we typically ask all of our guests, and
Okay.
it's always some sort of food related question. Um, so if you could have like one last meal, it could be a homemade meal, it could be a restaurant that's your all time favorite. What would be your go to meal? And it could be a whole. You could talk about your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or you could just say one meal. Totally up to you. Some people have went through their whole list of what they would have that whole day.
Yeah, so I was actually born in Taiwan, and I didn't move to the States until I was 14.
Okay.
And I think Taiwan's like kind of this hidden gem in Asia, where when everybody travels to Asia, they think, oh, Japan, Korea, or Thailand, Vietnam, those places. But what they don't know is like actually Asians in Asia will travel to Taiwan just to eat. They'll just go and eat food. And a reason for that is it's super cheap, but it's super good. And it's everywhere too. Just like, I can't think of, I mean, San Diego's a big town, even like downtown San Diego, but literally you have to like go to a place where you can find restaurants, right? Like maybe in
Mhm.
like gas lamp quarters or whatever. So, but in Taiwan, like every single street, there will be multiple restaurants on every single street. And that's just because it's like very food oriented culture. And so that's a super hard question, but really, so Taiwan's like famous for having these night markets where you just have 50 to 100 vendors all there, and
That sounds
70%
awesome.
of them would just be food stalls. And everything you get would be like $2 or $3 or something like that. And so you basically hit those markets with like an empty stomach, and you just bring 30-40 bucks, and you're stuffed by the time you're done. And you're getting things like when I say like fried chicken, it doesn't do it justice because it's like on another level. Or you get like desserts, you get treats, you just like all these crazy things. Like there's this thing called a yam ball, which is basically a sweet potato that's mixed with dough that's deep fried and then it puffs up. So it's like it's about the size of a ping pong ball, but it's hollow inside and it's super good. So it's like you just get random things like that for food.
Sounds
And
good.
so I would probably say like if I can have like one more meal, just drop me off there before I die and let me like walk the streets and then call it good.
I like that answer.
That's where you spend
Yeah.
your last like 3 days is just at that market.
Hitting up all the restaurants. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I
Yeah,
would do.
pretty much. Yep.
Sonny, we really appreciate it, man. It's been awesome. And again, keep up all the great work. And however we can help you, just let us know. But again, we appreciate the time.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.
Yeah, great talking to you. It was nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys as well.
Yeah.